beautiful beings, and welcome back to the realm of inspiration. Happy summer, happy June, and even though summer hasn't officially started yet in regards to the solstices, it has kind of begun. The weather is getting warmer, it's getting nicer outside, and I feel like it's finally time to just have a sort of conversation and see if a channeling is going to happen, because I quite literally don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to be very honest that since my diabetes diagnosis, at the beginning, it was easier for me to dive forward and really try and continue the work that I was doing from before. After some time, I started going through a different kind of grieving process. And I have with me some crystals that help with the grieving process. As you know, I do crystal Reiki, and just some crystals that have been helping me and are going to help me as I speak on what I've been experiencing and see what's going to happen, as this is the new introduction into what channeling will be. And what's going to happen moving forward, because I don't know, and we're going to figure this out together. And I think the best way that I can be an accurate representation of what it means to be in a sense, a spiritual autoimmune is to be honest that with what is a chronic illness, and being autoimmune, not just with the diabetes, but also with the diabetes and with the thyroid and the pancreas. It can cause a lot of different effects to you, and I can no longer approach spirituality from the same manner that I was doing it before. Not before I was autoimmune, because I had the autoimmune from the thyroid for a while that I was not aware of, but they can kind of tell that it has been, developing, and I've had signs of autoimmunity in childhood, but I was not aware of it, and it hadn't attacked the pancreas yet, and the pancreas being attacked, the autoimmune of the pancreas, which is diabetes, is a little bit more in your face, that there is something different. And I cannot approach things from the same way, and I've been trying to do things in the same manner, and it's not working. It's not working because it's not supposed to be working. It's because I'm supposed to be showing to people like myself who have different autoimmunities how working with energy and working with spirit is a little bit different, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all a method when it comes to this. So I'm holding on to my sea glass here. The first crystal helping me is argonite. When I was going to move to Greece, which I have done, which is very clear, I had a reading done where I was told that I would die here. And I took this as a metaphorical death, and that was the case. However, if I ignored my body one more day, I would have physically died. Because diabetic ketoacidosis is fatal, and there is something that I just have to say that a big component of spirituality is taking care of the physical body, and you cannot neglect your body, because I was doing that. I was ignoring, I was doing mind over matter, and I have never channeled any message that said to do that, but I believed that that's what I should do, and I should just effectively gaslight myself into thinking that everything is okay by mind over matter, right? I'm okay, I will be fine. And I wasn't fine, and I could feel it. I couldn't breathe very well. I aged. I have white hair, white hair, coming from the top of my hair, where the bottom of it is my actual hair color, so it was growing for a while. I had a lot of different signs and problems that there was something, that my body was shutting down, and you cannot mind over matter your health, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health. You cannot mind over matter. Any of that. And my first signs should have been in October, when I started feeling this certain way where I just was so unmotivated and so uninspired by everything. I felt like I couldn't stay alive. That is when my pancreas started to shut down. I ignored the signs. And the funny thing is, with spirituality, you would think you would pay attention to all the signs, but we tend to neglect the body so much. And so I want to have this rebirth of working with the body. I have been connecting and studying and trying to understand all the spiritual implications of the organs of the body, how to work with, how to connect with, how to communicate with, how to understand the purpose of certain autoimmunities, what it means for the soul's journey. I went through, I dove into past life regressions, because what happens when you have a near-death experience is you open the portal to all of your past lives, and everything unprocessed that you did not process in those past lives, you start to take onto this lifetime in a different way, even things that you were not meant to. So I had to go in and close a lot of lifetimes, see the lifetimes that I started to take things on from, after the near-death experience that I was not meant to. And also understanding why this happened to me. And I didn't realize until this moment, while I'm talking, that a lot of the grief that I've been feeling is actually the grief of my past lives, of closing them. And it's more closing some of the loops, not all of them, but closing the ones that, they came to the focus because I had a near-death experience, but they are not meant to be carried with me moving forward. That is what I've been grieving. And I did not realize that until, I'm holding the Argonite and I'm talking about it. And I also have like a bunch of crystals in my lap, so that's probably helpful. It's a trauma. And just because you go through your awakening journey does not mean that you are immune to experiencing a trauma. So next is, speaking of, desert rose selenite. Here I have desert rose selenite. Desert rose selenite has been helping me as I'm understanding the pineal gland and the pituitary gland in their relation to the vagus nerve and the third eye, and intuition and the gut. I actually, a few days ago, learned that I had some problems physically with my gut, and before that point I was struggling a little bit with like my intuition, and it's very interesting how that physically manifests, and that's why I was struggling a lot with channeling. And I published a channeling that I did at the beginning of May, and now I'm doing this video at the end of May, but I'm just going to start publishing everything in June. I want to start over in June and not, really, May had to be this grieving period of time, and also healing family traumas. I had a very interesting experience that I think is also important to share and talk about, is when an estranged relative passes. My estranged paternal grandfather passed away a week ago as of recording this video, and I realized, I already grieved the death, because to me, he hasn't been in my life for 6-7 years. It's done, it's finished. But the reality that it's like, oh, it's really, this person is really gone, and trying really hard to see things from the spiritual perspective, and having that compassion and understanding. Like, at the end, I knew he was sick, by the end, I'm not seeing him as this person as the person, but seeing him as a soul. Just the timing of doing past life regressions and seeing the journey of the soul with his passing happening really close to each other really showed me this, this is just one of his lifetimes. He's gonna have his lessons, and it is, even with the pain and with the suffering, it is a privilege to know any soul in any lifetime. And to break that cycle of like a lack of compassion is very clearly shown to me. And this compassion for self, because if I look at his life, he worked up until a week before he died. And, you know, you can't keep pushing yourself. You can't. It's not sustainable anymore. I look at the older generation of people, and they push themselves, and they're still kicking, and we're pushing ourselves, and we're getting illnesses. It's because this isn't how life is supposed to be, you know, moving forward. That's how life was, but we don't have to keep violating our own personal boundaries for success. Because the definition of success is relative, it's changing. So, speaking of success, let's see what I got here. I've got yellow jasper, polished yellow jasper, and citrine. Citrine, my birthstone. The solar plexus. With diabetes, you're constantly working around the solar plexus with insulin, putting insulin in the stomach. Always working around the belly button. You have the donut, and don't poke the belly button. I was terrified of needles. Oh my gosh. When I went into the hospital, I knew my body was shutting down. I knew they were going to have to poke me with needles, but I was just hoping there would just be like a cure-all pill. I know, and I knew I had to get over this fear. One of my guides came to me and said the reason why, since I was a child, I was so afraid of needles is because this was planned. This was supposed to happen. First day of the year of the horse, it was always going to happen. Nothing could have prevented it. So I was afraid, since I was a child, of needles. I had visions of being poked and poked and poked with needles all the time. It wasn't a fear. When I was a baby, I was poked with needles, but not something I remembered. I had a vision. I had visions my whole life, and it created the fear. The head healer, I'm forgetting what platform we're talking on, because I'm more vague on like ancient awakening, but this is the relevance person. I'm channeling the elves on this channel, so you already know the drill. The head healer told me this is why this was supposed to happen. I was having visions of the pancreas 2 days before I went into the hospital. This fear that lived in me was the fear of my future, because I knew. And there is a power in knowing, but there is also a curse. Because I spent all that time being afraid, and I still am a little bit, less so. I'm afraid of being desensitized to the fear, because it's a really big change. And it's scary. Change. It's a little scary. It's a little scary. But then, jade, crystal jade, here. A lot of moments today. So I'm visiting a village in Greece where I found myself, where I always find myself, where I feel at ease. And I've had so many moments today, seeing things that have changed, you know, from even a year ago. And having this thought of how beautiful it is to know something so deeply that when you see the change, you see growth, and you get to see how you've grown with it. A week ago, I did not have this mentality. Deep, deep in dark night of the soul. I don't know what the purpose and point of this video is going to be by the time I get through the rest of the crystals. Just honesty. Because I can't channel if I don't unblock my throat. And my throat's been blocked for a minute. And the nice thing with the Elfie realm is they don't push. Higher beings don't push. They know they have things to say. They know I have things to channel. But they're always reminding me that I have time. And they were always reminding me that I had time, but I always felt like I didn't. I always thought that I wouldn't make it to 23. Maybe I did have a choice. This was meant to happen, but maybe I could have chosen to die. But when they started poking me with the needles and I started having the 4 IV bags, flushing my body with insulin that it hadn't had in months, I started fighting to stay alive. As soon as insulin entered my body, I started fighting to stay alive. When I go some days where I don't take insulin a lot, or I don't eat much or something, I feel less motivated to stay alive. There's something with insulin, something energetic, something I don't quite understand. When I take it, I feel a return of energy, I feel a return of life force energy, and I feel the will to keep staying alive. Like the will to live is carried through insulin almost. There's something there I have yet to fully understand. But I realized this. And potassium. Motivation comes from potassium. I had very low potassium after the flush of insulin, and I had to take like tablets for potassium. When I was in the hospital, I was in the hospital for 8 days. And I would always feel better after I took those tablets, and I thought, oh, I get to keep taking them? Because I felt a motivation to take care of myself, to get better, which is very interesting. A lot of these things that we take for granted. And as someone in tune and having a good spiritual foundation, that's what they said, had to wait longer to have a good spiritual foundation. And I'm thinking, with the way that I'm grieving and handling this, if I didn't have a strong spiritual foundation, it's already not that great. Can't imagine it feeling worse. But with having a spiritual foundation in the way that I have it, but not trying to understand these human things about the body and how they carry energy, it doesn't make sense. And I was told, June is when we will start with the spiritual autoimmune stuff. So I guess this is what this is. This is the introduction to this. But is it even something different? Is why I have felt so unmotivated to channel since October, because I was channeling from the perspective of the normal person, in quotations, when I'm an autoimmune. So that is different. And they told me that I am autoimmune because of the channeling. Not because of doing channeling, but because I am supposed to be a channel. That my physiological makeup, as my body is done so in a way that makes it easy to be a channel for higher light. So it's different. How my blood sugar moves helps with how channeling flows. And this was always communicated to me. The conversation of sugar they have always had with me. And I realized how much I'd been being prepared for this, but why? When I would look at this time in my life, I would see a baby. There's something I was supposed to birth, something I was supposed to create. I thought actual children, and I got very hyper-fixated on that. But that's not the case. It's something else. And I still don't understand it. And I think that's very human. Maybe we forget that we are human when we start going through spiritual awakening because we want to be anything but the life that we are living. But we are meant to be more than that. We must let in the light of Source and let it guide our bodies. I'm tuning in clairaudiently with the crystals. We must let the light of Source in to guide our bodies. Because our vessel is fluid with the Spirit. Without the vessel, the Spirit is meaningless. It's interesting. Rose quartz. Rose quartz. I felt so suffocated. The last symptom of diabetic ketoacidosis was like you can't breathe. The last few weeks I felt suffocated. In my environment, in myself, in my room, in my skin, in my life, in my sensor, I felt trapped. It's feeling very earthly. Accepting that I chose to stay alive. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to pretend that I haven't, these last few weeks, pondered or begged, asked, why couldn't I have left? I connected to my ancestors who were there, who were keeping me alive. My maternal ancestors, my maternal grandfather, and his siblings holding my hand in the hospital, telling me what to do, telling me to accept the insulin, because for a while I was fighting it. I was fighting the tubes, I was fighting the needles, because I was afraid. I was afraid to rest. And I let them help me. There were a few nights, these last weeks, where I cried and I asked, why couldn't you have taken me with you? You were holding my hand, you were there. I could have gone into the light. Why keep me alive? And they tell me, they didn't keep me, I kept myself. And I thought, it's because of, I have obligations, I had plans, I had things to do, this is why. No, I kept myself because I know that this life is meaningful, is precious, and I don't want to leave it behind. But sometimes you just want the pain to stop, right? It's difficult. I thought I went through all this emotional pain as a child. I shouldn't have to go through so much physical pain now. That's not always true. We are meant to feel pain. It's part of being alive. It's what you do with the pain. Turning your pain into power. I try to remember to affirm when I take my insulin that I am reclaiming what was stolen from me. Because a lot was stolen from me. And now the beta cells of my pancreas are dying. And I feel like they want to leave. I feel like they're tired. And I've been told, I can talk to it. And I have talked to the pancreas, asked for help. I've had spikes and asked for the beta cells to do work to help. And then I lower. But I feel they're tired. I feel like they've been fighting for a long time. I feel like maybe sometimes we are supposed to let go of things. And there's nothing wrong with accepting your circumstances and moving forward. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to save everything. I feel it. I feel they are tired. I feel they can't give me the energy that I need. I feel like I need that additional support because I lacked support as a child. And so having this additional support heals something. I'm slowly noticing that. And that's really hard to explain to people. Is that I know I'm supposed to go through this and have this additional support of being insulin dependent, even though I'm such a hyper-dependent person and it's suffocating to be dependent on something. But because I had very little support as a child, it forces me to support myself, and it gives my body a chance to rest. I had a very sleep-depriving childhood. I look at my life and I wonder how I ended up in this position to channel, to a spiritual life coach, to do any of this. Where do I go off? Where do I think I'm able to do these things? And I know I can help because I've experienced so many things. I'm 22 with pure white hair coming out of my head. I'm very mature for my age, right? I don't want to lose the maturity. It's kind of funny how life is. And I have to learn to love myself. And I know that if I didn't have this thing, if I didn't have diabetes, I would continue to neglect my physical health. Because I've always thought that there is something more important than my health. Because I was taught this in my childhood. That there was always something more important. I was sick. I was sick a lot as a child. I had strep throat every other month. But it wasn't always taken seriously. So then I stopped taking my own health seriously. Rose quartz. It heals. It heals. I stopped taking my own health seriously because it wasn't taken seriously when I was a child or in America. I think of the doctor who saved my life. I'm gonna be so honest. With all my experience in the medical system in America, I cannot think of one person like that doctor who saved my life. She was calling me every day. And I know now to make sure that I was still alive, to figure out what was wrong. I saw the good in humanity that I didn't realize until this moment, that I was still lacking this faith that there are good people, because when your father and his family are bad people to you, you unknowingly have this perception of the world that there are bad people. That it's more likely that someone is bad, that someone is lying, that someone has an ulterior motive, that someone cares. This illness is forcing me to see that people care, and helping me understand who don't. Helping me understand who don't. Pause to turn on the lights. Let there be light, as they say. So, also, let there be tissues, because things are emotional. So, let there be light, clearing, and let me not miss any crystals. Selenite. There's a lot of heavy things. So I won't be channeling in this video, I don't think. This is time to sit with my crystal Reiki, you know. My joy is in crystals. Spiritual joy. I hear the joy bringers. It's the first time in a few weeks that my clairaudience is really open. When I was walking, just before recording this, a dog barked and I cried. I don't know what he said, but it made me cry. And this is an interesting thing, you know. I'm seeing that the camera all of a sudden is getting really blurry. I don't know why that is, but we're gonna work with it. Maybe I need to sit a bit closer. closer to the camera. Is that what I need to do here? Okay. So, you know, there is something to be said with the animal kingdom as well, and how they help clear things. Something to be said when you're working and connecting with animals. At the beginning of the diabetes, I volunteered the sea turtles, and I would hear them telling me that everything would be okay. It's interesting. I believed it because they are so wise. They are so old. They know. And it's okay that we are so young and we are so stupid and we don't know things. That's why we have all of these ancient, magical things of nature to teach us what we don't know. It's very emotional to reflect on how things change. Speaking of, okay. Well, I was gonna go with a pot shades here, but the Himalayan stone that I have seems to have a lot more to say. So, and you know something, I promised myself that I'm not gonna edit this video. I'm just gonna treat it like a raw, unfiltered live sort of situation. So this is Nimin, not Himalayan, Nimin stone. This stone is connected to, for me, one of my guardian angels. And I switched my main guardian angel when the diabetes happened. So before I was working with one of my guardian angels who was more connected to understanding the divine feminine nature, because that's something that's important for my soul. And now it's guardian angel that works with Archangel Sandalphon and stability. And he cares. He protects. And I have been ignoring. I've been ignoring because sometimes it's not easy. Having this illness, you have harder days. It's like everything is more extreme. The good days are really good and the hard days are really hard, and on the hard days it's hard to listen. When this guardian angel came to me in the hospital and told me, this is it, this is what we've been preparing you for, I broke down. I broke down because I knew it was true, I knew it was real. Because the veil was so thin. I knew I was dying. I had started to enter diabetic ketoacidosis. I felt it. I don't think I've actually fully processed this. I like how the camera is getting blurry with me. I don't know how to fix this. I need a new camera.
it's sad, you know, I've had this camera for a very long time and it's seen me through so many phases of my life. Sometimes there are no words. It's kind of how I'm feeling. Let's see. The next one, Archangel Gabriel, Diamond of Clarity. I have clarity of what's wrong with me. I used to ask, do I have cancer? Do I have something? What's going on with my body? Why do I feel this way? I just want to know. And I know. And I have the solution. Doesn't mean that it's easy. Sometimes I dissociate, and I just stare, censor. I had a friend, growing up, a good friend, with diabetes, who we had a bad falling out. And sometimes I wish I could speak to her, because I didn't realize how hard it all is. You just become hyper aware of everything, and I was already hyper aware of things. I feel like I was more composed, more put together a few years ago. I was older a few years ago. I feel like I've regressed because of the pain. I've just been looking for comfort. Something I could so easily give to myself before. It's not as easy now. It's very cold. The best way to describe it. The feeling with the insulin tubes. And also when I take insulin, if I don't let it sit out of the fridge for like 30 minutes. If I take it too soon, it's cold. No, it's how it feels. It's like I was warmer. I was more alive. And maybe it's because the beta cells are dying, or because I'm coming back to life. I don't know what it is. It's something. But I am grateful for the clarity, because there's nothing worse than not understanding what's wrong with you. So maybe later today, tomorrow, get back into the groove, channeling things, but doing things differently. And that's okay, because the only person who has any expectations is myself. Truly. I know none of you have expectations. Every expectation I feel, I put on myself, I pressure myself. And for Hashimoto, not a good thing. Hashimoto cracks under pressure. I'm pressuring myself. Look at that. Bache tears. This crystal I got in Tennessee. It's from the Trail of Tears. I carry it to connect to the collective ancestry. It's not that I don't love where I was born, even though it's not where my ancestors are. My ancestors are where I'm living now, and some other places in the world. It's that I lost trust. And to see something you love and you believe in so much start to fall apart and become something that you never thought it would, is painful. I started watching this happened to the country I was born in. And to my body. I don't feel like Spirit made the right choice to make me a vessel to channel, and I'm hearing, no, that's not true. You are. Don't think this about yourself, but this is, crossing my mind how many times I studied science and natural selection, and I'm like, natural selection is out to get me. But it's not, because we have the tools and we have the resources. In another life, yes. I've always carried so much that is not mine. I've wondered, is this mine? Is this not mine? Am I carrying someone else's problem? This is the effect of carrying someone else's problems. It got too overwhelming. I feel like I've been on overwhelm, and there's no escape. Until I went by the sea, until I came to a place that I have good imprints. But then I'm faced with a few bad ones. I have to fight them. And it's nice to speak to people who knew you before. And for them to tell you, you seem healthier now. And they didn't even know you when you were really shutting down, so like even healthier than I was before. Probably. It's good to know that my lifestyle, increased insulin sensitivity, so I was able to survive longer with less insulin. Meat makes you insulin resistant because of the fats. Not fish, but other meat. But I don't eat meat in general. Walking makes you insulin sensitive. Lots of water helps with insulin sensitivity. An active lifestyle, so I have a lifestyle that helps with insulin sensitivity. Kind of like delaying the inevitable, but that I have the optimal lifestyle for this condition to maintain it and manage it and lead a normal life. But the thing is, I will never be normal. I've always only wanted to be normal, to have a normal life. And they say this, you can lead a normal life, and it will never be normal. Because normal doesn't take insulin all the time, I have finally accepted the fact that what I've always wanted, I'm never gonna have. But I've also always wanted this sense of community, and I've found that through this. But I actually have friends who ask me, so how do we help you if something bad happens? Who are showing up for me the way that I tried to show up for my friends. Maybe I didn't show up for her enough. I can't change that. To accept care is very hard when you feel like you are only worthy of giving care. Because it takes a lot for you to feel like you deserve to receive. I hear a church bell. How are we doing on time? Wonderful on time. Wonderful. I actually opened my phone and I saw a notification that said, wow, wonderful. So that was a nice message. A good sign. A good sign. We got 4 crystals left. These are the crystals that help me the most. Always, always without fail, hematite. My stability. My stability. This is a lifetime of stability for me. Because I did not have a stable life. And now I will spend my life trying to balance everything. But I deserve stability. I deserve stability. I deserve a good home base that makes me feel safe. I deserve stability. I deserve safety. Hematite carrying my worth. When I am scared to embrace my worth, I avoid hematite. My power animal is a sea turtle. My strength comes from calm. Slowly. Present moment awareness, moving through life. The key to my stability is present moment awareness, and that comes with trusting yourself, with insulin, with carbs, with everything this comes from. The diabetes has forced me to be in the present moment, to be mindful with my food, to be grateful, and to trust myself. Right before I went into the hospital, I was struggling with trusting myself. I knew I had diabetes before I went into the hospital. I was denying it. I think I knew for a while. The signs were always there. They were always there. Like channeling. Being a channeler. Being clairaudient. The signs. And they were always there. They were always there. And that's the first time I've said that out loud. I knew. I always. But you avoid what you know when you're afraid. It's like love. Too. You know, this has also forced me to reflect on love, relationships. And I do have a relationship that I've been running away from accepting that what I feel is love. Because it's scary. Like, accepting that I'm clairaudient was scary, that I can channel was scary, that I needed to heal was scary, that reincarnation, that's scary. But the diabetes is scary. That I'm gonna be okay is scary. Tell me a year ago, I was in this 3 years ago. The same general area a year ago, but I was actually in this exact room 3 years ago. I feel her. That version of me. I feel her wondering how life will be. She won't believe me. If I tell her that I'm poking myself with needles 4 times a day. She would cry. Not because of the needles, she would cry because of our friend. My friend. We were one person. I would cry. I would have cried then. I was closer to when I went no contact with that friend. It was still very fresh. I would have fallen apart if it happened then. I would have fallen apart in general if it happened then. Because that year I got stung by a jellyfish and I had a lot of other things going on. I found my home. I've been asked, maybe it would have been better if you stayed in America, you wouldn't have known. This country saved my life. Like Greece, my family, my ancestors, they saved my life. I've been reborn here. This is who I am. And who I am does not have a label. I wouldn't say, I am the elephant communicator, but I wouldn't even say that anymore. I am that I am. I am who I am. I am thy soul. I am thy body. I am thy mind, the heart, the past, the present, the future. I am all that I am, and all that I was, and all that I will ever be. And I have no plan. And I'm still finding my North Star. Because everything that I thought has to change. Because I was living from an ignorant perspective in my life, ignoring myself. That was carnelian, by the way. Amethyst. In 2024, I was in this village and I channeled the journey from citrine to amethyst, working with ametrine, which I didn't bring ametrine with me, I should have. This process
how we change. I used to think this process also resembled like how food turns into fuel. I was always fascinated by this. Here's the thing. With mental health, in regards to spiritual awakening and autoimmunity, is that it's a bit of a struggle. But for the first time, my mind feels very free because I felt like I haven't been honest to the community, the people that follow the realm of inspiration. I haven't, while the Elfin realm observes my life, of course, when I sit down to speak to all of you, I sit down to speak to them because I open this space for them. So I hear them listening to me because they can't read my mind. You know, there's free will, there are boundaries, and I've been shut down. And since I opened this space for them, for my guides, for my guardian angels, for Source, for God to listen to me, I feel them listening. That's scary, because I didn't want them to know my thoughts. I didn't want them to know my pain. I didn't want them to know my fears. Even though I know they won't judge. Because I have been judging myself. Because when your life is in your hands, you judge yourself. If I do math wrong, it's on me. I go into hypoglycemia because I took too much insulin, that's on me. My life is in my hands. You're just more aware of it when it's more like clearly in your face. But at the same time, I know it's not always. I should never blame myself. That has been my whole life, is I should never blame myself. It's actually okay to make a mistake. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to have a mess of a video and just share whatever I can feel that comes out of me. I don't have to always work so hard to create something that's going to be profound. I can just be myself and maybe that can be profound. Maybe I can be enough and help by just being myself and not having to be something so big all the time. And the Elfie Realm has told me this. And I don't have to do that all the time to help people. That I can just be myself, and I say no to them because I'm scared to be myself. Because myself is a bit messy. But maybe that's okay. Acceptance, labradorite. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. So I've been sitting with labradorite, and I'm going to pull up here my list of channelings that I have planned, and we, with labradorite, are going to figure out if it's in alignment with who I am.
because I can't channel something that's not in alignment with who I am. So let us see what we have here. If it feels relevant, Channel message of the wild horse, time to connect with nature. It feels redundant, so no. Understanding alignment with the horse group soul and Archangel Sandalphone. Yep. Archangel Sandalphone and the horse group soul, both of those. Yep. Anchoring your authentic truth with the horse, abundance guidance from the horse. Yep. Summer solstice, of course. Flame of truth and horse group soul. Yep. For your spirit, guidance from the horse. Yeah. The Lion's Gate just doesn't seem to resonate with me that much anymore. So I'm not going to do a Lion's Gate channeling this year. I will do Autumn Equinox. The Alpha New Year of Abundance, they don't really have much more to share. It'll likely be like a color frequency reading or something. Final lessons with the fire horse, I don't think that there needs to be. I feel like nothing is final with them. The goat. Yep. We're going to work with the goat group soul. Autoimmune and spiritual journey. We're starting that series now. This is the introduction to that series. Autoimmune and the spiritual journey. This is episode 1. And the next episodes, we don't know if I'll include channelings, what I will do. But this is the first episode of that. Guidance for body system integration for the autoimmunes. Yeah, we're going to do all of this. We're going to go through the chakras. I see this here on this. I'm going to go through the chakras. I'm going to go through everything. Everything. And I'm going to update it for the autoimmune. The Celestial Bodies series. Yep. Gonna keep working with the celestial bodies. Finishing the color frequencies. Yep. This all aligns. The goat and horse spiritual relationship, that doesn't feel relevant at the moment. And deja vu. No. Doesn't feel relevant at the moment. That's actually something that I will probably write an article about. I'm not going to do a channeling about that because that just doesn't resonate. Labradorite helps you see what resonates. So all those things I listed, those are things that we can look forward to this summer, this year, next year. And these crystals that I mentioned, I will put in the description, you to work with them. Because you can see they helped me. So, also, for color frequency, I have orange candles to help me clear blockages from my sacral. And I have citronella incense to remove any pesky energy that blocks me from understanding myself. So that concludes that. So this, I have decided, because elaborate, that this is episode 1 of Autoimmune and the Spiritual Journey. Thank you for joining me. And episode 2 will be whenever, because you know what? I'm just going to follow what resonates. And I don't think you guys have any expectations for me. So, other than for me to put my best work out there and to remain authentically me. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to my story and connecting to the crystals with me. And I hope you will continue to join me in this journey that is for a lifetime. And if you are autoimmune, like me, and you have any autoimmune at all, feel free to share. And maybe one day I can do a channeling with the head healer and ask about all the autoimmunes and what they represent spiritually and how you can use that knowledge to help you understand your mission and your purpose in this lifetime, because they are a reflection of what we are supposed to do. And so trying to erase them effectively would erase what we are meant to do. So let's all try and accept them together.
It's a struggle, but we can do it together. So sending you love, light, and inspiration. Until next time, stay inspired.